Hello and welcome to the Yoga in Black podcast, where I have conversations with Black yoga and wellness leaders from across the country. My name is Tierney McDowell, and I too am a yoga instructor and the creator and host of this show. Each week, I'm joined by Black yoga instructors, meditation instructors, or holistic wellness professionals to have a conversation about anything under the sun and the moon. We'll talk about a large variety of topics with the intention for you as listeners to get to know us, get a feel for the vibes, and find your next yoga instructor if you're in search of someone to learn from. All episodes of the podcast are pre recorded, so if we talk about something that happened a while ago, bear with us. We're doing the best we can with the time that we got. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Yoga in Black. My name is Tierney McDowell, and this week I am joined by Bre Winston. And Bre, I'm not even going to talk anymore. Tell us a little bit more about you, who you are, what you do. Give us the deets.
So I am Bre Winston. Some may know me as Bre the Goddess. I run a wellness company business under the name of JenVonJan Wellness. And we cover wellness for every aspect of the body: spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, even financial. Sometimes I can definitely tap into that as well. So I am a certified 200-hour yoga teacher. I'm also certified Reiki master. And I am also certified in trauma-informed yoga, chair yoga, and children's yoga. So I'm working on some more certifications, but I'm trying to enjoy life mindfully right now. So I'm taking a break from certifications, and I am newly transplant. I guess that's the word they use. I'm a new transplant to the DFW area, all the way from North Carolina, where I grew up, and I was born and raised in North Carolina. So this is my first time venturing outside of my state. So yeah, that's me.
That is so exciting. I'm a similar. I have a similar story too, because and we spoke about this when I think we met. I moved
Yeah,
from Iowa, where I was born and raised, to here, and it's just really cool to be somewhere other than home.
it really is. Like when you haven't ever left home, it's like, wow, there really are other things going on outside of home.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing to witness, and that was always something I just wanted, anyways, because I knew there was more to the world,
Yeah,
obviously, but I was like, am I ever gonna experience it? Like, no, just do it. Just
just do it.
just go. And made it happen. So I love hearing those stories of transplants, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Was it imports or something like that?
Imports. Yeah,
Like I've been
I've
in
heard that as
Texas
well.
now for what, like 7+ years? Yeah. And I don't regret the decision ever at all. Like, have things happened that weren't favorable? Absolutely. But that's life.
Absolutely.
You're gonna have
It's gonna
unfavorable
happen.
stuff, right? So I was like, better do it here, where I'm, in a location where I feel like I, I'm thriving a little bit,
Right.
than at home where it's a high school reunion every weekend.
Right. That is scary in itself. Like I feel like that's my reoccurring nightmares, walking into Walmart and seeing people from high school.
And I'm so terrible with people's faces and names. Like, I'll remember your face, but if I haven't said your name repeatedly within the last year, maybe,
Yeah.
forget it. And so many people are like, hey, I'm like, hey, you.
Hey
It's been a
girl. Hey
long
guys.
time.
Sup? Happens every time I visit home. And I'm like, yeah, this was good. This was nice.
Oh my goodness. So, question. Because you mentioned you're taking a break from certifications. How many certifications did you pick up during the pandemic or the quarantine?
So I actually got my first yoga certification during the pandemic, which was again not planned, not ideal. I started before the pandemic hit, and then the pandemic hit in the middle of my training. It was about 6 months, so it paused everything, and everything got pushed back. So I got that first certification. And I actually ended up doing another 200-hour online certification right after I did that certification, because I was not satisfied with my in-person certification. Um, and I might have been a little paranoid. I just felt like I wasn't properly prepared for what was happening. And so many opportunities for me to teach were just popping up. And I was like, I want to be able to, know what I'm doing, feel more confident in guiding bodies. And especially during a time where it was totally different. Yoga was totally different because of the pandemic. So it was very different. So I picked up that one. I tried to do rocket yoga when the first black rocket yoga, Black Lives Matter rocket yoga certification. I was part of that first group, and I did maybe one video. And because I was still getting my other 200-hour, I was just so like, it was so much going on. Um, it was so much going on, and I was still working full time, and yeah, it wasn't working out. So I dropped out of that certification. So almost two, and then I got my technically I got my recertified in 200 hours. So I have two, and then trauma informed came right after that. So three. Yeah.
I was in that BLM rocket training.
It was wild.
Yeah, I was a mentor for Texas. It was an interesting time. There's a lot going on.
I really made a lot of connections during that time, though. I don't regret it, because the connections that I made, the people I was able to connect with, I'm still really cool with one of my mentors. And I didn't even know people were doing yoga that were that close to me. And I was like, oh, oh, there's more of us.
Like that training really spearheaded a lot of what I wanted to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
Just noticing, I'm like, there are so many of us out here. Why do I not know that? I don't like
Right.
that I don't know that. Let's change this, because there's too many of us out here doing this for people to not know that we're out here and existing and being amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that that was a fun time. Like I'm really glad that it happened when it did, because I've wanted to do a rocket training,
Yeah.
the 100 hours anyway, because I did a 50-hour with David Kyle. The
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he came to Dallas and certified a handful of us. Um, and then I'm like, well, I want to do the 100-hour, and he's like, come to Puerto Rico. I'm like, who's paying for that?
Yeah.
Like, who's paying for that, and who's giving me the time off that I need? I
Yeah. No.
can't afford that. Then it came around during the quarantine, and I'm like, okay, this is the time. Do it. I almost
Yeah.
didn't. I almost didn't, but I'm like, what else are you gonna do? You're doing nothing else.
Yeah.
Like, go
Yeah.
for it. I don't. There's so many of us have collected a lot of certifications throughout that time, because we all had the time.
I had time. I
And
had time.
they were dropping prices like crazy too.
Yeah, because that one was donation based, I think. And
Yeah.
I was like, why wouldn't I?
And see, and that's what really kind of pushed me to it. I'm like, that you're never gonna get this opportunity.
You're not going to get this opportunity again.
Like, go for it. Like, pay what you can, donate what you can, go for it.
Literally go for it. Yeah. It
Um,
it brought me a lot of comfort knowing that a lot of people were in this, they were feeling the same about, yeah, why not? What else we got going on? But
right.
I had just paid for my 2 hour certification. I spent a quite penny on that first 200 hours. So I was like, man, I can't fall behind in this 200-hour by trying to do this donation based one. And I had time to probably still submit my videos, but I was like, I don't deserve it. Just let it go. It was
Oh,
really
you
that.
deserve it. Yes, you do.
But it was fun though, because I got to really talk and meet so many people. Like, and I thrive in social settings, and then I don't in the same breath. But I've always thrived virtually. Like I always had virtual friends. I've always had people I've connected with over the internet. And I think it's just me being a millennial in that sweet pocket of a time period where that's what we did, like MySpace and Bebo and all those things.
AOL.
That was just the culture of us growing up. And that's what you did. You met people and you talked
Yeah,
through text message. And yeah, you probably did get catfished by a bunch of people, but also it was fun.
it was. And I feel like we're able to connect without a certain veil, even with the people that catfish. Like you're
Yeah.
able to speak your mind a little bit freer than
It's
in
like
person
venting.
somehow. Yeah,
You're venting with no judgment because I don't know if you're a real person or if you even give a flying can we cuss?
absolutely.
Oh, but if you even give a flying fuck about what I'm going through or what I'm even talking about, but the fact that there's a space for me to do it openly, and then if I don't want a response, I can just click off, delete you.
Exactly.
Never
Exactly.
hear from that person again.
I'm an introvert big time, and I love that ability to be like, okay, the interaction's done here. Okay, goodbye. Like there's no awkwardness to it. It's just I'll respond to it when I can respond to it.
Yeah.
No harm, no
I'm
foul.
an ambivert, but I think my ambivert comes from comes from my ADHD, and it's like, oh, I put out too much and then I want to reel it back really quickly, and I'm like, oh no, someone
Yeah,
saw someone saw me.
yeah.
like
Because
like I shared, but then also why?
I have that instant regret sometimes too. Because I'll like in a group setting, I'll share something and be like, "What are you doing? That is not what. That's not how you behave. Pull
you
it
didn't
back.
re-
Pull
you
it
didn't read the room. I
back."
never read the room. I never know how far is too far. And then I'm that person that I say it and everyone's like, oh, we went there. Okay, well, we're going there now. We have to stay there.
Yep, I have
Yeah.
them, and then I end up being too quiet because
Yeah, afterwards.
if I have that moment, it's like I either overshared or shared the wrong thing. Let me just
Yeah, I'm a reel it back. Let me
I'm gonna
sit in
sit
that.
here and observe. I'm gonna sit here and observe.
Yeah.
Be a fly on the wall. If you ask me a specific question, like directed to me, I'm gonna speak. But until then, I think I've said enough.
Literally. Just that. Just that.
Oh my gosh. I have a feeling our conversation is going to be very, very fun because if the both of us got ADHD, we're going to go all over the place.
We are gonna ramble. I'm so ready for
I'm,
that.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. So you got your training in 2019, 2020.
I started in 2019 and ended in 2020, even though it was supposed to end before that. But
What got you into yoga then?
so it's very my relationship with yoga has always been in the background of my life. And it's very faint and weird of how I've always known that this is something that's gonna be a part of my life. So my mom owns a hair salon. She's owned one my entire life. And she would have all these magazines. They just send her magazines, just magazines. And Women's Health did a magazine they did a spread back in like 2004, and it was all yogis. Of course, they were all white and thin bodied women, but it was just, I'm like, what are they doing with their body? Like, it was just so interesting to me. Like, what are they doing with their bodies? Like, that looks so cool. So I just started copying poses randomly from that magazine. And then Cosmopolitan put out another one. And then it was just like this circle. And then I think an episode of Girlfriends, they go do yoga. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be me. That's going to be me when I get older. So that probably happened. And then I didn't do yoga for until I was literally probably 19. But I've always been in dance. I've always been in cheer. I've always been in something that was going to keep me kind of active. But when I got to college, I stopped cheering. I didn't want to cheer anymore. And I could have cheered, but I was like, nah, I don't like how the collegiate level was a little bit more cliquish than I was comfortable with.
Were you at
Um,
BY?
no, I went to HBCU, but our cheerleaders, They took it very
I can see
serious.
that. I can see that.
They
Yep.
took it very serious, and I was like, I don't want. And I had taken cheer seriously my whole life, and I'm like, I don't want to go to college and miss out on other experiences because I'm committed to cheer and just cheer and school. I can't do that to
Yeah.
myself again. Um, so it was interesting for me to just cut it off completely. And I was at this HBCU with I was around the most black people I've ever been around in my life because I went to a predominantly white school in a predominantly white town. Um, and they had a they had a class and it was yoga. And as a freshman, we were supposed to take like one active or like one PE is class, but I had already taken dance my spring semester. So I mean my fall semester. So spring semester, my advisor was like, "You've already taken one. What are you doing? Like this doesn't make sense. Let's get one of your required things out of the way." And then we do it. But me being so stubborn, I'm like, no, I've always wanted to do yoga. Let's do that. Let's sign me up for that. And I was like, and I'll go to summer school so I won't fall behind. And I did. I literally worked the first half of my summer and I went to summer school the second half of my summer and I was good. I was like, this is I just have to live my life like this. I was so satisfied. But I went into my first class. It was all black girls. I never forget that feeling of walking in and seeing everyone with a yoga mat and like workout clothes. But our teacher was white. And so it was this middle-aged, frail, thin white woman with mala beads and like the harem pants. She was wearing a sports bra. Like it was very like your typical yoga teacher. Well, I don't want to say typical, but that was like that's what I thought yoga teachers
Stereotypical,
were.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought they looked like. Um, and she flowed us through a yin class, and that was my first introduction was yin, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so relaxed. Some people fell asleep in the class, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so magical. And I'm just looking at like how I felt afterwards, and I really was going through a lot of traumatizing things at the time, but I wasn't aware that it was traumatizing. I was just letting it happen. It was like, okay, this is just letting life whoop
Being
my ass
unhinged.
right now. Right. It was literally just me letting life mollywop me in the fucking face the entire that whole experience. But yoga, going to that yoga class every Tuesday and Thursday, that was like my jam. That was my thing. It's like we're doing yoga every Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we didn't have that class as an offering for like we called it campus recreation. And I had work study, and my work study was with campus rec. And I'm like, look, y'all, I took a yoga class for credit, but we need to start offering this for the students. Like they need yoga. And we were building this new facility, and they were like getting our ideas, and they was getting feedback. And that was like my first job. Like I feel like that was my first like real job. And they gave me the student director of marketing over the whole building. So I was like, oh, we need yoga, we need Zumba. Like, you know, like I'm like, we need to do all these things. I think this is like, I'm really thinking like this is what I'm about to do for a living. I'm gonna work for gyms across the nation. I'm gonna bring little classes together. Like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But we did the classes, we found an instructor. Our new director was actually certified to teach yoga. And so it was again a room full of black kids. And this one frail middle-aged white woman leading us through yoga every Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it got to the point where it started getting packed, where you had to do like a sign-up list. And the football players were coming because they started realizing, like, hey, this is helping us like feel good after a workout or before a workout. It was just amazing to have that communal sense of yoga. And then I graduated and everything changed. And I was like, what is this? What is this?
Man.
Yeah, but my introduction to yoga was I felt like it was divine intervention. Like I've always had it in the back of my mind some way. I've always seen it and been like, ooh, I've always done downward dog, not even knowing that that's what I was doing. Um, I've always been able to do like certain poses, and I didn't know that it was yoga, but I'm stretching my body out.
Yep. I had
Yeah.
a very similar experience. I also have a cheer history. And some of the stretches that we would do, I'm like, oh, I know that.
I know how to do that.
Look at that.
Muscle memory.
Right. Like jumped right into it. I'm like, it's like being a cheer practice. All right, here we go.
Yeah, yeah,
And
literally.
then got introduced to acro yoga too. I'm like, oh, so we can also stunt? Oh, okay.
That's literally how I look at acro yoga as, oh, we're stunting. Like, this is what's okay. That's nothing.
Yeah. Like the cheerleader to yogi pipeline is ridiculous.
We should talk about it. I don't think people talk about it enough, seriously, because, and it was so rare because after college, um, I stayed in the town, went to Salem after I was in college, and I just stayed there. You know, I didn't want to move back to my very small white town, and I already knew where the black people were in Winston. So I'm like, hey, let's just make fun out of it. But I couldn't, as an alumni, I couldn't go back to the gym to do yoga, or they
Mm,
were going to charge me, and I really weren't trying to pay those fees. And I was like, I used to work here. Like, that's so wild that y'all would not let me come back in just to do yoga. But I had to go to YMCA because someone in my family had a membership, and I made them add me on. But
nice.
I would go to hot yoga, the hot 26 every morning. And I was always the only black person in that class every morning. And it was sucking the life out of me, just going in, showing up, having to deal with like the people call them microaggressions, but I feel like they're max aggressions. Like,
Yeah, they macro as hell.
this is like,
They're just aggressive.
this is just an aggression you feel. And I would have to deal with it from the teachers, from the students, from the YSCA workers. And it just became so draining to the point I was like, it's not worth it. I don't want to do yoga like that anymore. And then I found this cool random white guy in the park doing yoga by himself, literally. And I did classes with him for a couple of mornings, and then I moved, so I couldn't do them again. Found the yoga studio that I did my 200-hour with, and I was like, okay, this is it. I found my place. And then that became dark. So
And I it's really beautiful the start that you've had being so surrounded by us because
yeah,
that's not common. Um, but it is funny how yoga has always been in the like the background for everybody because
yeah,
I remember just thinking that it was something that people just joked about on sitcoms that, white women did. And I'm like,
mm-hmm.
okay, cool, whatever. And then I get to high school and the way our classes were structured, we were on a block schedule where you only have like 4 classes a day for like an
Oh
hour
yeah.
and a half each or something like that. But I was also in student council, so they combined
Oh
student
my
council
gosh,
and
me
gym.
too.
Yeah. Man, team overachiever.
I was a nerd for student council. Like, it got to the point where my mom like sat me down and was like, you're stressing out about something that's not gonna matter when you graduate. Please calm down.
Big time. Yeah, like they had combined student council and gym. So one day we would go to gym, the other day we would go to student council alternating. And because we had a schedule like that, we didn't have the typical gym class. So we got to do like student council alone, just got to do special shit. And every now and again, our specific instructor would pop in some DVDs of aerobics, yoga, Zumba, a bunch of other stuff. I don't even know if Zumba wasn't around back then. It was some other dance stuff, like Richard Simmons style
Oh
shit.
yeah.
Like, and that almost feels like it's dating me, but I forget how old that man is. But when we were doing the yoga parts, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, and this is cool enough, but it didn't like there wasn't really a connection with it because
Mm-hmm.
it was just a DVD. So I'm a 15, 16 at the time, doesn't give a shit about anything. Like
Yeah.
I'm just here for the credit. Okay, whatever. And then circle back to college and I was already in a minor for health of sorts because I wanted to be a cheer coach at one point. So they're like, well, it's good to have a minor in health at that point. So I'm like, okay, fine, cool. So I got my PE credits by just taking some of the PE educator classes.
Yeah.
Didn't have to do any of the actual like physical classes. So I missed out on that opportunity to take yoga classes in college, but I did get one opportunity during the Miss Iowa pageant week where we had like a spa day and we did massages and yoga interchangeably. But the instructor, she was like intense to the point where it's like, yes, I know that we all look like, young, able bodied people here. However, I don't know what you're doing. And none of us know what's going on right now. And just her instruction was all over the place, had us doing postures that we physically were like struggling with. And I left the experience with more tension than I entered in it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think I like this thing. I'm gonna just leave that to them and just go on about my business. And it wasn't until I got into adulthood and in therapy and every person that was in my life at that point is like, "Have you done yoga before?" I'm like, "Yes, but I'm not doing like it's not gonna." Like, but you're stressed. You should do it. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? That's just gonna make me more stressed. And it didn't change until I took a class with my mom, and that was the first time I had experienced yoga with another Black person in the space. And I'm like, okay, if my mom can do it, I can do it. So let's do this. And it was a hot yoga class. And there were a few other Black people in the space too. And it made me feel much more comfortable not being surrounded by a bunch of white people, which is exactly what it's been my whole life. So I'm like, okay, so we do this. All right, great. And the instructor was so much more intuitive and knowledgeable, and just her sequencing was great. Her cues were great. Her pacing was great. Like I finished that class and like I knew I had my ass handed to me because I was, out of shape, but the experience was just like, oh, that's where all the familiarity started to kick in of, the things that we used to do in cheer now being done on this mat in this hot ass room. Like, okay,
Right.
this makes sense. And by the time we got to the end of the class, I was in tears and just like it was
Melted.
right. I melted. Like, oh, where has this experience been? Now I get why everybody keeps recommending it. And from that point, I never stopped. And just been on a quest to make sure it stays in my life forever, because you can tell a difference in
I
yourself
can
when you
tell.
take a break from your yoga practice. And it's not just the asana, it's just all of it.
All of it. Yeah.
Yes, like when you stop being mindful of things around you and just kind of going through the motions, when you stop meditating, when you stop being conscious of your breath, it's
Right.
it's all those things that make a difference. And it's not just, the physical postures, even though my body will definitely be like, "Hey bitch, you need to go do this shit, otherwise I'm shutting this shit down."
Yeah. Yeah. I've been experiencing that this past year because moving, I don't know. When I first moved, I just did not feel moved to continue my practice. And it was like, oh God, am I shutting down? Am I shutting out? And most of it probably was a little bit of, well, probably not a little bit, but it probably was depression. But it was just like, oh my gosh, you've been doing this every day for years, and now you're going to the point of not doing it. And so then when I did try to redo it and ease my way back into it, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna just go to my regular power yoga class. No. Like literally my body was like, whoa, okay.
That was a lot all at once.
I needed We weren't prepared. We didn't drink enough water for that today. like no, no.
So then that transition from student to instructor, what really fueled that aside from just your the desires you already spoke of?
Um, so my yoga final for my first certification, we were able to invite people, and because it was COVID, we had to keep it at a limited number. But I invited all of my friends that had never done yoga before, like never, like if they had never had a class before, I'm like, you're coming to my class and you're coming to my yoga final. And in that moment, me looking around and seeing the group of brown bodies moving, and listening to my voice, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And it was like, I know that they can't do certain things. So I had to switch up my entire final, hit the key points that he was like, you got to have this to pass. And I was like, all right, I'll do that. But I'm going to really take my time easing them through it and cueing them because I know they don't know what they're doing. And even during the class, I'm getting looks like, okay, like ease up. But that really fueled me into like, I want to do this for everybody, like my family, my friends, strangers, like introducing them to this. And afterwards, everyone texted me like, hey, I slept great, or hey, that felt really good. Like I thought I was really gonna be hurting when I left, and it was actually therapy. Like I felt amazing when I left. I need to do that every day. Like you about to have me on a yoga train. And one of my friends, he actually did get really deep into yoga after going to my class, and I was like, that's so nice. I love that. But after that, I only taught Black bodies for a year straight. I didn't teach any white able-bodied people. I only taught Black bodies for a year straight. And it wasn't even intentional. It just happened that way. And they were who showed up for the classes. So it was like, oh, this is meant to be. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it kept fueling. And then after I got my trauma informed certification, I was able to go into behavioral hospitals and do things with those patients and work with those people. And it was such an enlightening experience. Like, and even when I go back home, like if I'm going back home for an extended amount of time, I always like hit the coordinator up like, hey, y'all want me to come teach yoga? Like I'm free this day, and they love it when I come. But it's just like I need to be able to guide people or expose people to that toolbox that they didn't even know was accessible. And you don't have to be doing too much. They make it seem like you have to be doing a lot with yoga, but the performative acts of yoga is just the performative act. You know what I'm saying? There's so much to an entire yoga class that it doesn't always have to be all about the asana. And that really pushed me more than anything.
That's beautiful. You had mentioned something about your the final class for your teacher training.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm wondering because like they had the requirements that you needed to hit. Was one of them being adaptable in the moment?
No, and up until that moment, and this is another reason why I really didn't agree with a lot of things that leader of the training did, because I felt like he tore a lot of people down to make other people feel good in the moment, and I never wanted to be a part of that, and I had avoided it the most part of the training. um but I did He made it a point to make sure everyone knew that I had the best class out of the whole certification. But I didn't want it to come off the way that he made it seem. Like he made it seem like you guys should have done what she did. And it wasn't part of the requirement, you know? I just I invited my friends, and intuitively I know, you know what I'm saying? I know this person can't do a back bend, and I know this person don't even know what a back bend is. And I'm taking those things out of the class because we had to turn in a draft before we did our final. And he told me, he was like, you went completely off from what you gave me, but it worked. And that was the first time I felt doing watching someone's certification that they were living the teaching experience. But the way he tore the rest of my peers down to like let me know, it was really I felt very uncomfortable. It was just like you didn't have to tear them down, and some of them confided that they felt like whack after that, because like dang, we worked this hard, and we all worked together, like we would do like peer review, like you you let me run a draft on your class, I'll do a draft on your class, like we did that, and we worked together to all make sure we did a really good turnout. And he kind of was just like, I want to make sure all of y'all know what she did was flawless. It was perfect. None of you did that. And it was like, wow.
Compliment he gave you should have been part of the exam. Like instead of making these guidelines saying these are things that are required for you to complete within your final assessment in order to pass. It's like how can you know that that's what is actually going to be needed for the people in the space that are
Right. That wasn't, it was a very rigid requirement.
yeah. So him complimenting you on actually doing what yoga teachers are supposed to do
Right.
and then berating somebody else for following the guidelines that he gave, it's mind-boggling to me. And honestly, it pissed me off, so I had to calm
Yeah,
down.
no. I completely agree. And I've always had to like, dang, like I feel really bad for my parents because they didn't deserve that. You know what I mean? And it was to the point where he would bring it up when I'm not even around. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. Like you don't have to talk about it afterwards. And he's talking about it to students of the yoga studio and people who are doing the YTT with me. And I'm like, I don't, if I'm not there, you shouldn't be talking about
Yeah.
my class. Like that's weird, right? Like,
Unless you are providing me with an opportunity to teach or something, keep my name out of your mouth.
and that was the weird part about it because he never extended the offer for me to teach at the studio. So it's just like it was a lot of weirdness with that studio. I'm not gonna lie to you. And it pushed me to be the opposite of that. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was a different person, I would have saw that and took that as that's who I'm supposed to be. And he knew that my dream still is to own my own yoga studio. So for me to see that as a studio, he owned the studio, and see him act in that manner with the YTT group, I'm like, I never wanted to be that is the opposite of everything I'm working for.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. It's situations like that where I wish more people would ask themselves truly why they are offering a YTT, because
Yeah.
not just like every yoga teacher isn't for everyone. Teaching yoga or teaching teachers to teach yoga isn't
Yeah,
for
isn't for
everyone.
everyone. No,
Yes.
it's not.
And as a studio owner, I understand because I'm not a studio owner, but I've worked in capacity.
You've worked with, yeah.
Yeah, and I understand the business side of it and the fact that teacher training is something that can keep a lot of studios afloat. Um,
Yeah.
I get that, that draw for it, but it's like you still have a very large responsibility here. Not only the fact that you are teaching, an ancient practice that is still existing and thriving in today's, society, um, paying homage and respect to where it comes from and being
Right.
a part of that continued lineage, like understand your why of this, because if you're just doing this to get some quick money to keep your studio going, I need you to reassess if you're supposed to have a studio at all,
Right.
because you shouldn't be reliant on your teacher training program to draw in revenue.
And honestly, I'll be completely honest that I think that was the case for the studio because the rapidness of the YTTs after that happened so quick. And I'm like, there's no way you can recover from having
At all. There's
this
no yeah.
the recovery about I had to recover after going to YTT. Like,
It's a lot. It's a big undertaking, and
yeah.
it's aside from all of the stuff that you learn about yoga, you learn so much about yourself. Like it can be a truly spiritual experience.
It was, yeah, and it was.
And that's a collective thing, not just for the participants, but for those leading it too, because you're facilitating all of this, holding space and, trying to, manage energies. Like that's a big undertaking, especially if you're not doing it as like a 6-7 day intensive, you know?
Yeah, no, this is drawn out of 6 months and even
Yeah.
longer because of COVID. So 9 months, almost 9 months. This is a baby.
Yeah. So it's like understand your why. If it's to get rich quick scheme, please rethink. If it's to stroke your ego, really rethink.
Right. Yeah.
Because leave the ego at the door.
Yeah.
That
I
really, that
literally,
really made me very sad. A lot of
yeah,
feelings.
I've journaled about it. Me and my therapist worked through that. Because I was also the only Black person in my YTT.
Same.
Um, and so it was almost at a point where it was like, are you singling me out and giving me this praise because I'm the only Black person here? And so I had to battle with that, like
And it,
trying to figure out like what is it that's so off about this experience I'm having.
yeah. Um, because like YTT aside, just whenever it happens that I'm the only Black person in a space, it's just like a lot of attention gets drawn to me because I'm the other in the room and they expect something less.
Mm-hmm.
But because like when I first moved here, I had been practicing for like 2, 3 years at that point. Um, and I had just finished my YTT right before I moved to Texas. So when I finally got comfortable and ready to start studio hopping to find somewhere to actually, practice, um, people were surprised at my ability. Like
Same.
I'm
Like,
like, why are you surprised by this? Like it doesn't make sense, or just it almost turned into like a fucking spectacle. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but this is not a modern day minstrel show. I am not your entertainment. This is my own personal practice too, just like yours. And I'm sorry that you know you've got whatever it is
yeah,
in your head that you need to make a spectacle of this, but please don't.
please don't. I'm not that. I'm not. This is not that. This is literally not that.
I'm not your
And that happened a lot for me in that particular YTT. It was like every time I did something, they made it like, oh my
oh my
God,
god,
you could do that.
duh. Like
Like even to the point we
everybody
had
can do these things if they try or have the ability. Like I don't
right,
want to at the risk of sounding ableist, but it's just like don't discredit people just based off of what you see.
right. And
Stop
I
doing
hate
that.
we had guest instructors, and they would always make it a point. Like every time we had a guest instructor, they would always make it a point to compliment me on my practice and like I really loved how you flowed. And it's like, why was my body movement so precious to you and I'm flowing with the rest of the class?
Doing the
You know?
same thing everybody else is doing. There's at least a handful of other people also doing the same things I'm doing. Why are you telling me, oh my gosh, your practice is so beautiful and blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay.
You have a really beautiful headstand practice. Like I heard that throughout the like to the point where I think it kind of stirred me away from doing my headstand and my handstands, like really like progressing with it because I felt so awkward people bringing that attention to it because I learned how to do this at the same time you guys did.
Yep. I like whenever it got to a point where whenever I go to a class that the instructor will cue certain, and I hate using the word advanced, but advanced postures. I don't do them
Yeah,
because I'm
same.
like, nope, I'll do that at home where I'm
For
comfortable
my
and
own
not a
right.
spectacle. And no, it's rare that you'll see me pop upside down in a class or take the arm balance variation. I'm not gonna do it because I don't want to be the show. I don't like that.
Because they put that spotlight on you. And it's like I just came here to chill out, dog. Like this is a part of my toolbox, and it doesn't require the eye, the glares, the stares, the comments. Like I just don't want it every time.
That's
Like,
fun.
and that was my literally during my YTC the entire experience. Someone is commenting on something all the time, and I will say going through that YTT was a different time, and I think it would have been different either way because we were going through the riots and the George Floyd riots,
Oh
and
gosh, yeah. Oh, you poor thing.
so, and in the city, very close to mine, there were riots, and some of my peers were from that area. And oh my gosh, the comments and I got pepper sprayed last night, and I didn't even do anything, and I'm not racist, and I'm like, do y'all hear yourself? To the point where I did snap on probably everyone, but it was like, do y'all hear yourselves right now? This is my life experience in totality. This ain't new, okay? It's not new. We've just been isolated for months, and y'all think it's intense.
Or
And this is
it's all
really,
being documented and you're actually seeing it now.
yeah, like it's okay.
Like
It's
this is
it's
national
okay.
news now and you get to see what happens.
This is what I've been dealing with since a child. Like they could not fathom that. And even to the point where I think that day we had to like read our journal entries or something poetry related out loud. And mine was about being a black person, being the being the black person who no one understands. And at the end, they're all crying and sobbing and wanted to hug me. And I'm like, no, you're still not, you're missing all of what I just tried to show you. And so it was an exhausting experience. That month, I will say, I think it was like May, June, that whole 2 month span of going through YTT was exhausting.
I'm glad to see you have recovered from it and are thriving despite it because
Yeah, I know.
I'm
But again, I taught black bodies for a whole year without, and the experience I got doing that, my gosh, like no one, like any, even if I popped into a headstand or teaching someone how to get into a headstand, there's no, oh my God, you can do that. It's so, okay, so how do I learn how to do that?
like that. I'll accept that type of comment.
Yeah,
Of course, just ask me to do my job, please.
right. Walk me through that. I want to be able to do that. Like, let's get goals together. Like, let's do that. I love that for us. But so when I did start back teaching everybody, it was it was it was enlightening. And so I didn't say this, but my very favorite studio, and I'll leave their name out. My very favorite studio back home offered me to teach their YTT modules. And so I teach the trauma informed YTT module for that studio. And it's kind of the way I do it is like restorative justice. And it's a restorative class, but it's trauma informed. And we're talking about all the shit that nobody wants to talk about in the business of yoga, in the classes of yoga and stuff. And my very first time teaching that module, I had an all black, all the students were black. And so they didn't know I was going to be black. I didn't know they were going to be black. And I walk in and I'm like, yo. And us just having those conversations, they be like, well, this is what's been going on. And this is what I've experienced. And I'm sharing with them. And then they're like, okay, so this is why we're teachers. And it's like that moment of, yes, this is why we do it. And I did it so you can do it. You can do it so someone else can do it. Like that was very that whole year was like, oh wow, this is alignment. And then later on, I started teaching the more diverse groups, and I had some students like that. Really, they were like, I really have never thought about being a white person until I took this module because it's just things that I wouldn't have. No one has ever said to me. Number one, no one's ever said these things to me. No one's ever made me aware of what's going on with other groups. And number three, like it's never been a priority. But now that I'm going to the teaching experience, I literally make sure they all know this is your job. This is also your job. Being aware of these things, this is exactly what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. Um, it's saddening how often people don't broaden their community so that they know and understand, the experiences that other people have. Which even with the dark cloud that, George Floyd's murder brought, I'm glad it did because it's like, see what we go through? Do you see it now?
Crazy that they never seen it. Like I'm just like, how did y'all miss this until now? But it really took for y'all to stay home and have nothing, nothing. Literally, y'all had nothing else to do but know that this is going on.
Yep. Yeah. It's been an interesting ride since then. I'm just hoping that people continue to reach out to more people that are different from them in all different aspects, whether it be race, class, sexual identity, gender identity, whatever. Like, find a community of people that are different from you so that you can learn about each other's experiences, because I don't know why you would think you live in a bubble and that everyone's experience matches yours. That is not the world we've ever lived in,
Right.
ever at all. And
Yeah.
being a minority within this country, you have no choice but to understand.
Right.
It's, but that's a whole conversation on privilege that we
Right. We can go days about that.
man, oh man. So
Days about it.
I actually wanted to know more about JenVonJan. So if you could
Oh,
tell me a
yes.
little bit more about your business, what does it do? What do you offer? Get into the nitty gritty of it so we really understand.
So, the name is what is really the most like it drives my mission for JenVonJan Wellness because it's a combination of my middle name, my mother's middle name, and my sister's middle name. And so it's the first three letters. It's three letters out of all of our middle names. And I love that so much because it's such a communal thing that I want to pass that legacy along. Um, and when I think of health, and when I think of like a healthy, sound mind, body, spiritual, financial, emotional, I think of my mom, my sister, and me all at different stages. We're always going to be at different stages in life. We're always going to be three different personalities. We're always going to be three different ages, but we always still need the same amount of attention to the body. No matter where we are in our stages, like we're always going to need that attention. So that's what really drove me with the name. So people are always like, what is that? Like, what acronym is that? And so then when I explained, they're like, oh, that's so beautiful. And it really is beautiful to me because my sister was in my first YTT class. Um, my mom, who was completely against me getting certified in yoga, like at the beginning, she was like, "What is this? What do you want to do with your life? This is not real." She ended up taking one of my classes. So I was able to like get her to do yoga with like seeing that. I was like, that's something I never would have thought was gonna happen in a million years. So now you are included into that beginning story. And so before COVID, I created the JenVonJan. Well, part of it. It was just gonna be JenVon, which is just me and my sister. um, I provide divination services, and so I did tarot and oracle and birth chart readings. So I did those things before the pandemic hit, and I would go live and I would do all these things, and I was really in the groove of it. But then I was like, this is only tapping into like a small piece of everything that I care about, everything that people can do to help their toolbox. And so I started taking financial literacy classes. I started taking care of, so I was a nanny for 6 years, five, no, 6. Oh my gosh, she's 8. Yeah, 6 years for 6 years for a phenomenal family. Um, and during that time, I got certified, my Montessori certification. And so I was an emotional social facilitator. That was my title. And so I started like studying like, oh, how can I tie in emotional social awareness to spirituality and finances? And then I always want to do yoga and meditation. So let's tie that into there. And like all these different layers just came to this melting pot of this is JenVonJan Wellness now. And it's all about us healing together. And that's my tagline, let's heal together, because it's all about me sharing my experiences of how I was able to heal certain parts of my past and certain parts of me. And I'm still continuing to heal, but I can't heal you. You have to heal yourself. I'm only here for support, to hold that space for you and give you what worked for me. And if it doesn't work for me, we'll find something else. We'll find something. It's always a different method to heartbreak, depression, like anything. There's always a different solution. It's never one solution.
Healing is not a one size fit all thing. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta find what works for you. Some people smashing shit to pieces helps them
Right.
process. Some people need to nurture something. and that's fine too. Or some people just need to cry it out, or like whatever. And if
Right.
you need the extra help, that's what folks like you are here for. It's like I
Right.
think that's great. So, given all of the things that you have under your belt now, and where Jen Von Jane is now, where do you see it going within the next few years?
I really want to open my own facility. Without a doubt, that is my dream, is to open my own facility and to have a school component part of that facility, because childcare is something that children have always been a part of my life, even though I do not have any of my own yet. But taking care of children has been a part of my story from the very beginning. And I've been able to kind of play around with this curriculum because I was a nanny and I had a wonderful family that let me do whatever the fuck I want. Like they were like, as long as the child is breathing, is she fed? Is she fed? Is she bathed? Oh, I don't care what you do in the in between. Just take care of her.
That's awesome.
And so I was able to do those social emotional activities with her. I was able to do yoga with her. I was able to do meditation. We were able to eat healthy stuff, take nature walks, and do all of this awareness about who you are as a human, and how can no one ever take your human experience away from you. And now looking back at her being 8, she is the most emotionally like mature and socially mature child. She will let you know, like, yeah, no, these are my boundaries. We're not pushing those. I don't want that. And that's it. Like, she's able to do those things that, again, I didn't even know that it was possible for me to be able to say some of those things as a child to regulate what's going on around me.
I mean,
You know?
it still feels foreign now, and
Yeah, I still struggle with it.
yes,
Saying no hurts, and it shouldn't. It should not hurt as painfully as it does. Like, it stings. So I really want to focus on getting a facility where even if I have to start off as a yoga facility, I still want to be able to provide my spiritual services, house cleansing, house recharging, doing in-house readings, virtual readings, oracle readings, birth chart readings. Like, I want to be able to do all of that in one place and still be able to sell like certain things. I also have my certification in herbalism. Um I've played around with teas and stuff before, so if I have a facility, I would venture more into that.
yeah.
So yeah, that's my dream is always just have this facility where it's a safe space. You have a garden in the back. You have we have a field where the kids can do whatever, where there's football, yoga, have that space. And I really have always wanted to create this safe space where the entire family, young, old, from everybody, every capability in the same space, taking care of ourselves together, and I feel like that's how it should be.
I love that. Just hearing you talk, just it's like I'm listening to myself because I've had a lot of those same ideas, even though I don't necessarily like in this time, I don't see myself opening a studio space, but my mom has also expressed interest in opening a wellness facility of all of those same things. She's a master gardener and into all types of homesteading type things. She's grown so
Yes.
many herbs, so many vegetables, all this stuff.
Yes.
And she's a daycare provider. So I've also been taking care of kids my whole life.
Yeah.
Like in some way, shape, or form, I have been in some type of childcare.
Yes.
So that would be a component of it too. She's, been doing Montessori stuff with the kids now. And
Oh,
she
I love
has
that.
a few of them in pre-K. Um, and there would be the yoga. I'm looking to get certified in Reiki. It's just I'm in so many certification things right now that I'm just like I need to.
Take your time with Reiki though, because it's not going anywhere, and there's just so many things that you could do outside of the certification to get more comfortable with it first.
Yeah.
Like just reading some of the books. Before I got certified, I literally read, and I was like, I don't know what I'm reading, but it's gonna make sense to me
Mm,
once I get it all together. And then once I got certified, I was like, okay, this is really easy.
yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, okay.
I love it. I haven't gotten to the point yet where I've done readings for other people as far as tarot is concerned, because I'm still learning a lot.
Yeah,
But I hope to get to that point, but it's still very personal. But I love this vision that you have. Do you see it happening in Texas, or are you
I
looking
want
to?
it to happen in Texas. Um, Without a doubt, I want it to happen in Texas. And it's not. I live so North Carolina. I live in a very, I live in the Bible Belt, in North
Mm.
Carolina. It's very conservative. In the town that I lived in my adulthood is not as conservative as the town that I grew up in, but they're still very way far behind Dallas in that light. And so I knew I couldn't do it there. I wouldn't have the backing or the support because everyone's just still so like
Yeah, the stigmas of yoga.
yeah, but here I was like, oh, they down with yoga? They down with yoga? You down with the terror? Oh, y'all down with the herbs? Okay. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Oh, okay. I feel a lot more comfortable with it here. Um, yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable with it here.
That's what's up. Where do you get your herbs right now?
So I lived on a homestead for 3 years. And so I would grow a lot of my own herbs. But now that I am in Dallas, I get my herbs shipped to me.
Spread the deets, because I am looking for something.
Yeah, there's a place back home called House of Health, and everything's organic and everything is absolutely homegrown and it's fresh. And I love the way that it smells when I open any bag because you could just smell the intention.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so I get my homegirl to ship me herbs when I run out. I'm like, I need this and marshmallow root and a little alfalfa. I need all of these things. Venmo her the money with the shipping price, and I get it shipped to me. There's also a place on Etsy. I have my feelings about Etsy. Um, it's such a it's just like Amazon. It's like a God darn it. Like I really need this one thing, but I know ethically, like I just
That
but it's
convenience
just
is great, but it's hard to vet it. Yeah.
you can't like emotionally and like gosh, the ethics, the values are just woo. But herbal schmerble is the name of the Etsy store that I get to, and they're based out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and they grow everything right there on their farm. So I got some of my herbs sent there from like my blue lotus, the pink lotus, like the ones that are actually like really hard to find, but I know they got it organic and it's ethically sourced. I'm like, yeah, let me just get it from them. So I haven't bought anything from anybody out here in Texas yet. Not that I won't, but
Yeah.
I still feel kind of like a newbie.
Still getting your feet up under you.
Yeah.
It's because it took me a while to even find a metaphysical store, even though there are several of them now here. Um, it took me a minute. So take your time.
Yeah, I would say it took me, and man, in North Carolina, I gracefully we had Hoodoo Hannah's, and and it's also Hoodoo Heritage Month, so yay! But Hannah's store was like my safe haven for a long time. She was the only metaphysical store and black owned metaphysical store that really made me feel comfortable. Um, and I could get everything I needed there, all the supplies, all my things for my rituals and doings. Like I had all of that right there in that one stop shop. And now I've been to the metaphysical stores here, but I'm just like it's so much, like they're so big, they're kind of intimidating. I'm like ooh, I need to kind of scale it back a little bit. I'm gonna spend my check. Yeah, I can't.
It's easy to spend a check and
Yeah, and that Hoodoo Hannah, she'll tell me like, you don't need all of this right now. Just work with this. It was more personal, like a personal shopping experience. You don't need this. What you trying to do? Okay, let's talk about it. You don't need all of this right now. Let's scale it back a little bit.
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think a lot of people need an experience like that because it can be overwhelming, especially when you're just starting out with all this stuff. Like there's always that proclivity to buy everything, and you don't really need all of it. Like
right.
what did I purchased a tarot journal, and I already had a bullet journal that I was using just to
Oh, I love bullet
track
journals.
everything. see, and I just can't get with them because I need something more structured.
Because you have to build the structure. I learned it. I've been struggling with it for like 5 years, but you have to build the structure. You have to sit there and plan out your days ahead of time.
Yes, and I am not good at that. And having just a blank paper full of dots looking at me like, all right, put some magic on me. I'm like, I don't know. So I got
Yeah.
this journal and it's been helpful. I haven't used it for like the daily as much as I would like to because I don't remember to pull. But I do stay consistent with the moon phases. So I've been doing my full moon and my new moon full,
Yes.
and it's helped me with figuring out a format that works for me. But I think that's where I needed guidance. It's like I need somebody to help tell me, okay, try this. Did it work? No. All right, try that. Did it work? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I need something with a little bit more structure to it, but just like take a bullet journal and fill it with what you want. I'm like, but I don't know what I want.
I don't know what goes there. Yeah. That's how I was when I first got it. I was like, it looks so cool. I just need it. I needed it. Now I have all the pins. I have all the like the things to make the lines straight, to make the stencils. I have everything I need now. A little pencil box, a little backpack full of stationery supplies. It's kind of a hoarding experience as well. But it makes it go. It makes the days go by way faster. The off days anyway.
Yeah. I think
But I
my other hang up is I want it to look pretty, but
yeah,
my autistic mind is very linear.
you
So
gotta let go of that. You gotta let go of that one. That's why I have to get the rulers, get the protractor, the rulers, the stencils. It's the only way it's gonna come out perfect.
yep, and it ends up looking like a spreadsheet, and I'm like, well, this is just who you are, Tyranny.
This you gotta accept it. Yep,
Like
gotta accept it.
you're not the one that makes it look pretty with all the little drawings and stickers and doodles. I'm like, no, I just need the hard facts and the hard lines. Just give it to me straight.
Yeah, but I love that you have a tarot journal because I started tarot at a very young age. It was very hidden practice for me.
Yeah.
Like when I say it would be like me in my closet, hoping my sister isn't like trying to walk in on me, or like it
Until
would be very. So I had a friend and she was always a witch. At any point of my high school experience, I saw her and I was like, witch. Like it was just, and it was fine. But she introduced me to the metaphysical things, and we were playing one day. She was like, "Oh, I got this tarot deck," and I'm like, "Tarot deck? What's that?" I'm like 16. What is a tarot deck? She's like, "Oh, pull a card," and I'm pulling everyone's card at the lunch table, and they're like, "Oh, no." But you're right. And I'm like, oh no. Am I like, do I have a gift? And she had to like sit me down and really, because she was from a long line of like her family was, this is their thing. So she sat me down and she was like, listen, you may have a gift, but you need to pull it in a little bit, just don't be going around reading for people randomly. You need to spend your time doing it for yourself. And so she gifted me my first deck. But that got thrown into fire because my parents were like, what is this?
oh no.
So I didn't revisit tarot again until I was like 21. And I kept it to myself. I was like, no one's ever going to find out about this. No one needs to find out about this. It's going to be my little secret. I literally walked to the mall, Earthbound. I think it was Earthbound. Yes, I got my first deck from Earthbound. And I was like, this is going to have to do. This is it.
As as commercial as they are, I do appreciate their existence.
They were there when I needed them the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
For real. So
Man.
I went to and I sat with that deck until I was like 23 when I first read for someone else, and they begged me to do it. And I was like, I don't know. I've only been reading for 3 years. Like, like that seems a little pretentious. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Then I got more comfortable with it, and I was like, okay, this actually feels good. They're getting answers. They needed this. They needed the reassurance and confirmation. So yeah, I love to do readings. It was to the point where when I first started doing it, I was doing it so often that I was draining the hell out. I mean, I was draining myself. I would be on live for like 2 hours pulling everyone's cards, and I'm giving in-depth examples, explanations. Like you need to know exactly what to do on this day and this day. Like it was draining me.
Yeah.
And now I just have my website. You can book. We do it privately. Cool, because I can't I can't sustain myself that way.
Yep. I'm the same with yoga. Like, I have a certain number, well, at least now that I know better, threshold of classes that I'll teach in a week, um, be it private or group classes. Like, y'all ain't gonna burn me out again.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do that again.
Oh, yeah, that yoga burnout can be.
And it's so crazy how, like, so I'm currently in my personal training certification.
Oh, yay.
Didn't expect that one. That was not on my bingo card for 2022, but
it's here now.
it's here now. But even in the times, because I'm no stranger to fitness training, but in those classes that I have taught, I'm so less tired from fitness classes than I am from yoga classes. And like, it's that energy exchange.
It's so crazy that people don't realize that when they ask you to teach this class, this class, this class, and I still need you to come back and do this. I can't. I just can't.
It's like, but you don't even have to be on your mat. It's like, it's not about that.
No.
I am having to create a safe space for people. That means I am having to exert amount of energy to create this space
And hold that space for them.
so that they can do what they need to do. And
yeah,
that's me still taking in their shit too, because that's just the nature of energy. Like, it's going to be passed along. It's going to
yep,
be felt no matter, who you're around. Like, you don't even have to be around the person to feel their energy.
yeah, you gonna feel it.
So now that you're enclosing me in this room with at least 10 people, expecting me to hold space for them and keep my shit together, tired.
This is how it is.
Goodness, like, that shit is thing. As something that needs to be said in teacher trainings too.
Man, and literally once I get that facility, I don't want to be a part of the YTT trainings. I want to pull in everyone that I know is equipped for this. I trust them with these pupils, and I don't even want my ego or anything a part of that. I want this to be an enlightened experience. I want them to have the experience that I wish I had. And I don't think that I don't know if studio owners can give that to new teachers, because you're in a different mindset now. You've taken the teacher part to a different level. It's like you've leveled up and you can't separate those two. I don't need to be a part of it.
You've turned yoga into a product.
Yeah, let me find somebody for you. You know what I'm saying? Let me find the right people to guide you through this experience. I'm gonna still be there and hold space for you, but I can't show up like that. Damn.
I've been asked to, teach within 200-hour trainings, and I'm not against it, but I'm not always, eager to jump at the opportunity, because I know that's first of all, it's a big undertaking. But I also feel like I serve better as a mentor. Like, I like to be able to support you in the whatever program that you're in, or afterwards, whatever, so that you feel a little bit, find your footing.
Yeah.
In your own way. But I don't know, it's something about actually teaching in a teacher training. I'm just like, this is, yeah, I'll do it, but I'd rather support in a different way.
Yeah. Even when I do the trauma informed modules, I always feel like was that enough? Like, I always have to act like, what
Hard.
did I do enough, guys? And I always have great feedback, and they're like, yeah, no, if anything, you just could have elaborated more on this, but you did great. Like, I've never experienced that before. But I think it's just in the back of your head, you don't want to be responsible for someone else going out into the world
Lacking
a certain way. Yeah, no, that's probably why I don't have kids right now, because that is a lot of responsibility.
Look, there's so many layers to all of that. I don't even want to get into it.
Right. Like, will you ever surely know who you're raising? No. So no, that's scary as hell. I want the responsibilities.
First of all, I need to make sure I can feed this thing. Second of all, I gotta make sure it's out here being a decent human. What? wanted to wrap this up with you letting us know where we can connect.
So I am on the gram. I'm at JenVonJan Wellness, which is JenVonJanWellness. I had to close my eyes because clearly I need to see it to be able to physically say it out loud. I am also on Facebook. Under the same thing, my JenVonJan Wellness. That I have my own page for that. I usually post that, and I am also at JenVonJanWellness.com. So that is also, it might be, no, it might be .net. I think it's .net, but I will send it to you so I will know.
Yes, I'll put everything in the show notes.
Yeah.
You teaching anywhere as of late?
So as of lately, no. I am going to start offering some virtual offerings. I just haven't found any opportunities that I really feel aligned with yet, you know? Not that I've been absolutely trying is either, but I think my experience being in Dallas is that I am not a typical yoga teacher, and when they see some of my certifications, they're like, "So how does this fit in with what we got going? We don't do none of that here." So I've been learning, kind of just have to find where I flow in. I'll get there. But yes, I will be doing online offerings in the month of October because it's one of my favorite months. So I'll be doing chair yoga offerings and probably like a restorative or a yin flow at night. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, shit. Bre, this was great.
Yes, I enjoyed this.
Yes. You were just such a breath of fresh air the first time I met you. Like, and as soon as you walked up,
Same.
I was like, I feel like I've known you for a really long time.
Yeah,
We
same.
literally just connected on Instagram like days prior. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I feel like I've known you forever. You are just, I love you. You are great.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same.
Well, folks, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining in. Um, like I had said, no, I didn't even say that. But new episodes every Tuesday, so be sure to check us out next week for another awesome guest. Have a great, great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Yoga in Black podcast. Next week, I'll chat with Delani Stevens. Every Tuesday, we're airing a new episode, so be sure to check back in next week on Spotify or check us out on YouTube. You can find us at www.yogainblack.net or the Yoga in Black podcast on YouTube or on Instagram at yoga.inblack. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.